Okay, good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to you to this the final webinar of our International Women's Week. I'm very happy to be joined this evening by Julie and Sarah, who are from My Rounders. And we're going to have a talk this evening about sort of what the My Rounders movement is and the kind of beginnings of it, and maybe what the future holds. So, good evening to both of you, first of all.
Hey,
Evening,
Alistair,
you
thanks for
okay?
having us on.
Absolutely no problem. So let's dive straight in. Julie, can you tell us a little bit about what it was that made you sort of start My Rounders, and how that went kind of in the first few months and years?
I'm an accidental founder. It's a true story. I am a trained relationship therapist. I moved to Neath on the day of lockdown from England. Literally put the last box in the house at 5, and Boris locked us down at 8, and here I was. So my own private practice went online. Didn't know anybody locally, and as we went through COVID and then some fire breaks, I started joining walking groups, dipping groups, just to try and get to know each other, more people, sorry. And one day they sort of said, "Oh, uh, does anyone fancy rounders?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we've got some beach rounders organised actually," but because of the fire breaks, it never kicked in. So I still needed to meet new people. I've got a sporting background, really missed that camaraderie of team and people and connection. So I phoned Aberavon Leisure Centre. I had nothing on Sundays, just said, look, just come down whenever you feel like it, and see what you can do. Put a couple of posts up on Facebook in two Talbot groups, rocked up on the Sunday, and 154 people turned up. So I didn't really know what to do with that. I had a bat, a ball. I couldn't remember the rules. I didn't even know what I was going to do, even if 5 people turned up. So 154 was even more overwhelming. But there was obviously an interest and demand. We'd just come out of COVID, so I think people were looking for collection and something different. Um, I, s- my sporting background is football and hockey. Far too old to go back into those circles, so I didn't want to join clubs like that here. And just rounders just seemed to fit really. Um, so from there, played a few games here and there. More and more people were talking about it. It was going across socials, and I was having phone calls all the time saying, "Oh, how do I get involved? I'd love to put my family team in. What's the rules? What can we do?" And yeah, I kind of made it up for about the next 8 weeks, and yeah, here we are. So we started a little pilot league, uh, November 2022. That grew from 7 teams to 16 by January 2023. I then I didn't know the area, so I didn't know where I'd even move to. But I knew of Freedom Leisure, Celtic Leisure, so I was like, oh, I'll phone them and just see if they've got another facility somewhere. And randomly, the next one that they had any outdoor facility availability was Gowerton. I didn't really know where Gowerton was in comparison to where I lived either. But did the same thing, put it up in some local Facebook groups, and within 3 weeks we had 12 teams sign up. So it's then really I knew this was probably more than a hobby, and I was never going to get a chance to play rounders because I was too busy organising it.
Yeah, wow, that must have been great, but also must have been quite daunting to have
Yeah,
that kind of success so quickly. I think it's quite a challenge in a way to have so many people there wanting to play.
yeah, definitely. It was really overwhelming. The first 18 months, really, my feet didn't touch the ground. To be honest, I haven't really touched the ground the last 3 years, if I was really honest, because the growth has been so significant so quickly. It's almost been unmanageable at times. No systems, no real. We knew quite early on that we didn't want to play the traditional rounders rules because we didn't find them overly accessible for the diversity of people that were coming through the door. So that was our probably earliest biggest challenge, was to strip those back and create the official social rounders rules. Um, that was probably my biggest task. And then after that, was how do I collate all these fixtures and results, and what special awards should we add, and what does a presentation look like, and people want kits now, and what about the bibs, and yeah, it just went on and on and on. So I
And
just was putting out fires all the time, you know.
yeah, and did you have any kind of support with starting a business? Did you have any knowledge of that prior to this starting, or did you get kind of advice? How did you go about that?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I knew there wasn't a national governing body in Wales for rounders. So I thought that was the most sensible and common direction to go. I had a good relationship with Rounders England. They really have been so supportive, you know, a lot of copy and pasting and guiding and directing. But Sports Wales closed their doors on me in the opening 3 to 6 months. They didn't want another national governing body. They were also retracting their whole system and rebuilding it, so you couldn't even get the sport recognised. Even though some of their thresholds we were smashing, so they had 250 participants. At this point, I had 650, and it was growing rapidly. But yeah, they've they had their own sort of delivery strategy, I suppose, and that wasn't part of it. So I was kind of forced down the limited company route because the momentum was now. People wanted to play. Nobody could have foreseen that adults wanted to come and revisit the nostalgic sport of rounders. So my background, I have so friends call me the uniform collector. I have had nearly every job you could ever imagine, in between trying to set up the most amount of businesses you could possibly imagine. You know, 1 minute I'm a uniform collector, next minute I'm a Del boy. So I had experience of business. I love business. I love being an entrepreneur. There's no two ways about it. But I was always a service. I didn't really have a product, and I didn't really need others to deliver it. So that was a huge learning curve, and it still is in a way, to understand how to, you know, instantly. The first 14 weeks, I was umpiring solo 5 hours every Sunday, just to even see if we had a concept. So when we went to Gowerton, we used 3 pitches. So suddenly I needed a cohort of umpires who was going to, deliver that training. It was there was headaches on a 3-day basis, I would say, and I was just having to work out how I could, kind of bring the. We didn't even have a system. We're only really now looking at our systems now because we were just drawing on 6 or 7 different systems, um, because a problem arose and we're like, right, okay, I need a platform for that. So I'd find that one, and then I would have to speak to that one. And then, yeah, it's been a, it's been a time, like, it's been a time.
Yeah, I bet. Sounds interesting. Sounds like a real ride. And did you know Sarah before starting? Did you know each other from before?
No, so I didn't, again, our story is pretty random. So I didn't know anybody. Within a year of living in Leith, the family moved to Aberavon, bought a Victorian renovation, and randomly, I have to call her Jono. I can't call her Sarah. Sorry, Jono. So
It's all
Sarah
right.
John, we call her Jono. Jono came to fit our BT lines to get us online, and that was the very first day I met her. Then about, I don't know, what do you think? 6 months later.
Yeah, it was a few months later.
Um, it was about the third or fourth week where I'd started at the Lido Aberavon. And I just looked up to my left because I got a viewing gallery, and I saw her walk in at the back of the viewing gallery. I was like, no way, that's my big tea lady. Like, what's she doing here? Anyway, ended up playing, and John had been a player for about a year, and then you decided to become an umpire, didn't you? That was your
Yeah,
international
that's how I
wrestling
got
story.
involved then
Yeah.
with the staff side of it.
You went from an umpire to a league coordinator,
Yeah,
and
so I
then
was yeah, so I was one of those 154 people. So
Wow.
I came to the Lido to start Rounders, just sort of one of Julie's advertisements, and then met new friends, put into a brand new WhatsApp group into my team, and then again then played for a couple of teams then, and then I noticed then my Rounders was looking for umpires, and my background is sport, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get involved with this and be an umpire. And from that, then it just grew to be a league coordinator then for my rounders, and started going from be a league coordinator in one league, and then across, I think I was doing 3 leagues a week across the whole of the area.
Yeah.
And
It quickly became evident that Jollo had a certain set of skills that really sort of became invaluable to keep growing. So between us, then we started to start the odd league together because there was no way I could continue solo. You did some sort of part-time admin, didn't you? So the fixtures went from, pen and paper and long nights to a digital system, which Jono eventually took over. And you started full-time with me, didn't you, in April last year? And you now runs all our operations. So there's from umpires to coaching to league fixtures to league coordinators. Jono's the main person within the staff team at the minute.
Wow. Imagine if you'd had broadband from a different company.
Exactly right.
May never have
Imagine if I
happened.
went Virgin. I mean,
Yeah.
It was meant
Yeah.
to be. I'm telling you, it was meant to be.
Yeah, these tiny
it is weird how
decisions.
that's aligned. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So you've talked about how quickly it grew and kind of the headaches. What would you say was the biggest challenge as it became a sort of business and as it became sort of an operation? What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced?
by far, it would be the facilities, and it still is now, and I think it will always be. So facility time. We've got some wonderful relationships with some really good quality facilities like Clandarcy, Academy of Sport. Celtic have been massive partners for us from the beginning and still very supportive. But we do find it really, really difficult when we're competing against mainstream sports like football, rugby, netball. And in fact, one particular area that has only one sports hall for many miles radius. We've got an outdoor league in that direction, but we cannot bring that indoor because after some research, we found out that 4 nights of the 7 are full of netball. So every sport deserves a space. That isn't what I'm saying. But when we're working with community facilities that are funded by all different directions and ways, I do believe, I'm a firm believer that there should be more variety for their members to have a go at. So I find that frustrating. And also it has blocked us, hasn't it, Jono? Like it is really difficult. We go into new areas. We're not trying one facility. We're trying 6 or 7. And it's that's our biggest headache. I think it always will be.
Yeah, I think in indoor space and dry weather space is a challenge across all sports. I mean, we're seeing that more and more with all the rugby clubs wanting space to train in the winter months. The football teams also. So I know that the kind of dry weather facilities are booked out, but yeah, that must be frustrating when you've got an area that there's interest, but it's hard to find the space then to put
And it doesn't even
league
go
on.
on area interest. We know what we've discovered is the demand are in the little valleys, the smaller villages, the smaller towns and cities, because Cardiff, Swansea, they've got so much to choose from on a Sunday or whenever we run the league that maybe they're not choosing rounders first, but the areas like Rhondda, Gowerton, I mean, that's Pontardawe, those smaller sort of valley areas they're thriving because there isn't anything else to do. And especially for women, especially women, women's sports and all ages of women, so it is from a female point of view, from a female sports person point of view, but also obviously from a business owner, it's incredibly frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at the positives for a minute then. Obviously, I've seen the impact it has on people joining a team, maybe people who've not played sport before, or the thing that you hear a lot is, I haven't done rounders since school. I haven't played rounders since school, and I think you see people go and realize it's a fun thing they can do, that you don't have to be technically that good at it. You know, you don't have to be that fit. You can develop all these things. What would you say is the biggest kind of positive that you've seen and you get out of it? You can both answer this separately if you like. You know, what would be the thing where you think, you know, yes, that's why I do this?
I'll go first if you want. For me, it's the growth of confidence, especially in the females, the women. You know, some of them, they haven't even left, they don't leave the house, probably leave the house once, twice a week, haven't got that big friendship groups. But now what you're seeing is you know, they're leaving the house more than they're going out on the weekends. They've made these really big friendship groups, and they're going on holiday together, they're going on road trips, they're playing games together, they're going out for food, and even their children are making friendships with each other as well. So for me, it's the growth of the community and the confidence in women, and just seeing them how happy they are when they come and play the games, and when they're talking about it, and how much it's changed their lives as well off the pitch.
Yeah, it's quite a, I don't sit reflect enough, but I when I do, it's realizing that it's a sport that, like you say, you don't need to be brilliant at every aspect of it, and you do develop as the leagues grow and you play more. But we're, you know, a huge percentage of our membership base have never played sport before. They haven't even been through a leisure centre. So they're coming through a leisure centre for the first time to come and play our rounders. And then they're going, oh, do you know what? Should we get a gym membership? And they're like, oh yeah, cool. And then next minute they're in Zumba, and then they realise they're building this confidence about their body image and their fitness. And they're joining touch rugby, and so it's given people that have never been in sport before an opportunity to go, oh, actually, it's not that bad. Those people that were selected last, you know, in all those PE classes, well, now they're not. They're getting selected every week, all the time. You've got mums, you've got single mums, you've got mums that have got children that have gone to uni and they're suddenly really wondering what to do with themselves, what's their purpose, what's their lead. You've got directors, judges, unemployed. The diversity of what Rounders attracts is pretty awesome. But also the special part about Rounders is you have brothers playing with sisters, mothers against sons, husbands and wives either playing against each other or with each other. It just depends, you know, how volatile their relationship might be or not. And, you know, we're getting emails on a regular basis saying, you know, it's reversed my diabetes. It forced me to go for a health check because I wasn't managing, and I discovered this and this, and I wouldn't have found that out. And now I'm also getting better because of that. And um, I could speak for hours about it, Alistair, because the stories just don't stop coming in about how it's not just the health impact, but the social impact. You know, people have been stuck in houses since and isolated since COVID, but also they find themselves going through grief and they can't bear to be in spaces. But Rounders has encouraged them out, and they've got a new family. And like Jolo said, you know, we've got teams going on holiday together, and you know, Rounders, it's just the vehicle because we're doing such a bigger thing in a community way. It's not really just the sport. It's so much more.
There's
Yeah,
one story,
absolutely. Go
sorry,
on.
there's one story I love, and it's always stuck with me. I was up in the league, and there was a lady in her 50s, and no sports background, and she'd played a whole season, so they were in their second season of the league, and she said, oh my gosh, I've had to step up as bowler tonight. And I said, oh gosh, aren't you a bowler then? No, no. And I was telling my husband, oh gosh, I'm really nervous. I've got a bowl tonight. And she went upstairs. By the time she came down, he'd gone onto YouTube, found some videos of baseballers bowling, rounders people bowling, to show her how to do it. And do you know what? I just thought, oh my gosh, that would never have happened if she'd stepped out of a house, come to play rounders. And that connect, just to see their partners supporting them at home, knowing how important it is to their partners, it was just a really nice story, and I just thought it was amazing to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of what I do is obviously trying to talk about the benefits of activity and sport. And as Julie mentioned, the health benefits are obvious. Getting people out and active, but it's maybe those slightly more side effect benefits. Like what you've just described there, people being less lonely, less isolated, having that friendship group, having a WhatsApp group that you can sort of send messages to. And yeah, again, I've seen that firsthand how powerful that can be. Obviously, you guys were recognised with an award last year, at the Welsh Sports Awards. What did that mean to you to kind of to get that kind of recognition?
Yeah, it was the whole night. We were kind of the spare parts of the light. That's how it felt. I mean, nobody made us feel like that at all, but that's how it felt, because we was, like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 tables, and every table was national governing bodies, councils, all, top athletes in their field, and all funded to a degree. That was another observation of mine. And we were kind of like this only limited company, it felt, in the room, and we was up against the FAW. I mean, how many years established is that? How much money have they got to throw into initiatives, And I was there for the experience. The team were there for the experience. We was having a nice time, and still to hear our name announced in that room of, the best of Wales in sport, still, yeah, chokes me. It's yeah, it just was unbelievable, wasn't it? Like, Jono was there. You could believe
Yeah.
it. We couldn't believe it, could we? It was like,
No,
the
no.
recognition was really, really welcomed, because it feels like we have achieved a lot and we've got so much potential to achieve a lot more. So yeah, it was really special.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me a bit about the numbers. You've talked about the growth in numbers. I think, what did you say? You started with 150 at that first session. What's your membership sort of now as we stand?
So we have just under 10,000 registered players. We have 40 leagues.
Wow.
We have 300, I think it's 58 teams as of today, and about 28 locations. And our furthest is Carmarthen this year, all the way across to Newport and everywhere in between.
Wow, amazing. So obviously the reason we're talking is for International Women's Day, which is obviously on Sunday the 8th. And you very kindly offered your time to come and talk to us during this week. What do you think events like International Women's Day mean sort of to the wider public? Why do you think they're important?
I think I find this difficult to answer, Alistair. I think because it's pretty incredible that we still need to have a special day to keep shouting about 50% of the population when it comes to gender. That does blow my brain. We're still doing it. That said, doesn't mean I'm not a fan of it and an ally of it and support it, because I absolutely do. It does still sadden me that we have to do this to keep finding our space, as females. Um, what from a sport point of view, for me, I believe it gives a real sort of insight into still the struggles, and a massive celebration of what is actually going on, and showcasing those awesome things that perhaps wouldn't get ordinarily a platform. So, I hope that doesn't sound like I'm a sort of have put the day in a bad light, because it's not. But I think there's still frustrations that we have to do this. But also, can I just add, I don't like Valentine's Day. I don't like Christmas, because the world forces us to celebrate those things. So, that's a little bit of probably myself there as well. But it is great to have a platform and be given an opportunity to showcase some of the awesome stuff females are doing, and be reminded, who was the very first females to get up in the air in a plane, and those, we should definitely still be celebrating those things.
Yeah, 100%.
On that one, I'm with Julie. It's like it does like draw attention still on the ongoing issues that female people come up against. But with the positive side of it, it's great. I went to a Q&A with Laura McAllister. She's the first female vice president for the UEFA board for FAW, and you can see how forward we have gone with women being in I know some of us say like a man's world, and we can see the growth in it, but there's still some work, which is really sad to say, but there is still some work that we need to do where it's equal for both of us in sport, in careers, but there is still some work that we still have to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you both completely. I think a big part of days like this are about still calling that equality, that inequality, calling it out. I think that's still really important. So, we see even from primary school age, the percentage of children that do physical activity on a regular basis, there's about a 10% gap between boys and girls, and that gap never closes all the way through, through into adult life and beyond. And in fact, the gap widens. The statistics show, and you see, the female CEOs of football teams and rugby teams. They get comments about the fact that they are women still, in 2026, and I completely agree. I find it very saddening that that's still something that gets, that gets said. You should be judged on your merits as a person and as a professional, in whatever walk of life you exist in. But yeah, thank you both for your honesty. I completely agree. And obviously, we're trying to call out that inequality, but also champion the good things, like you said, champion those things. And your movement is definitely one of those that raises the profile of women. And I know your leagues are not all, not all 100% for women. There's men that play in the leagues as well, but it's very much about championing the women, putting them at the forefront of the movement, and getting them involved in a way that maybe they wouldn't if it was. If it was a men's league or fully mixed.
Can I just say, and I know Julie probably agrees with me, the male players that we have in my rounders, they're massive allies for all our female players. So I do just want to say they're amazing in our my rounders community, and it just grows. The growth in the male players come to join, even coming to watch their partners, their family members, and it's just great to see in our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good point.
Thanks. So let's finish up with a sort of a crystal ball moment. Where do you see the next few years? What's the kind of goals and targets? I know before we started, we were just talking about kind of Carmarthen and the sort of the west area. What would be your kind of goals for the next couple of years?
Well, if we bounce back to the awards, one of the other things that I shared once we did win our awards was that for me, I think the only way forward for sport and growth is to create social sport. So it's not really just about rounders, it's about what social sport brings and what that means and that language around social sport, because that sounds so much more open to everybody than your local Sunday division football or darts or whatever it is. So for me, I would love to see rounders as a social sport grow across the UK entirely, because there's some, Rounders England have been fantastic. They have been going now for 80 years, and their membership is pretty much the same as ours, and yet their scope and funding, etc., has been huge. And I've often talked to Rounders England about this and said, it's Rounders is an accessible sport, but not the way you play it. And I would say that to most sports. Cricket at the moment are really the only guys that seem to be, and tennis to be fair, but cricket especially, they have tried everything to make it so much more appealing. Going from 3-day Test cricket to T20s and street games, and I would really encourage sports to look at that, because I think that's why Rounders in Southwest Wales has grown so rapidly in such a short amount of time, because we've gone, oh, do you know what? We're not going to say you're out because you've gone past the post. As long as you don't go halfway, you can come back again. And it's all about that playability and keeping people in as long as possible. Now, Rounders England, they've got different leagues across the North Yorkshire, especially. It's very big there. The sport became popular because it started in working unions. So the big factories up in North Yorkshire, they put on back in the day sort of those sports clubs and committees, and they created Rounders League. So it's really popular in North Yorkshire. But again, it's played still at quite a high elite level. So I would most definitely like to explore growing my Rounders into those spaces, and making it even more accessible than what it is already.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of bringing the fun. That's what sport is all about. You don't go into sport as a child, with a view to being the best in the world. When you're very young, you pick up a ball and a bat because it's fun.
Exactly
Yeah.
that. And my own sporting history has been, I didn't, I was a female footballer. I didn't have the opportunities unless I was going to move, unless I had parents that drive me here, there, and everywhere, and commit to this, that, and the other. There wasn't those spaces to go and develop as a female footballer. So I'm very much about looking after the grassroots of any sport, and the more social sport my Rounders we could stick in these little cities and valleys and towns, then that's opportunity, isn't it? And you never know where that will go. And Rounders is such a you can cross skills across to so many other sports. It's a no-brainer to me to keep ploughing it into younger age groups, primary schools, secondary schools. Don't let it drop off. Put it back on the GCSE sports PE courses, because they took that off. I think 2018, I want to say, which obviously means it puts pressure on teachers not to do Rounders at all, so it drops off. But I think our numbers prove that it doesn't need to. It's as it could become that fundamental functional sport that then leads into all these other mainstream sports.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, listen, thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate your openness and talking about your journey. If is there anything else that you'd like to sort of say to message you'd like to give to people out there maybe thinking about playing Rounders?
Well, before we do that, I'd like to thank you, Alistair. Like, you have been incredibly supportive. You are a player and a member, but you've been incredibly supportive. You are one of those allies. I mean, to watch you with your team and how I know you've got a sporting background, but you've taken the team on and you've really brought them forward. You've got a great little family. It looks like, from the outside anyway. And then, you've always been big supporters of us and helping us out with facilities, and have you thought of this, have you done that, and we're really grateful for that. So I just wanted to make sure that was said as well, so thank you.
No, thanks.
Mine is, if you are thinking about playing Rounders, come and give it a go.
Yeah, just do it.
Trust me, it will change your life.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying in the very first session, that it'll become an obsession. You'll be joining multiple teams and leagues, and that's very true. I've definitely seen that in people, kind of going and buying a bat and a ball and joining more than one team, and yeah, I've definitely seen that kind of infectious nature of it. It's great fun.
Yeah, which is a compliment in itself, isn't it? It proves that they're safe environments, they're welcoming, players are looked after no matter the ability or age, and somehow you will get good players within your team of nine, but you'll also get every other ability, and it just kind of levels out, and that's just how it works. And yeah, just come and have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both again. It's very much appreciated.
Cheers.